Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Storj Community Hangout. Let's see here. Let's start and get things started here. We're currently in Berlin with the whole team. They're around here somewhere. Hello. They're back in the screen. They'll come in later. So let's get started. Make sure everyone has the link and start answering some questions. 2 viewers already? 2? Yes, super excited. So if you would like to ask questions to me directly, make sure you go in the chat channel on the community Slack. So if you're not part of the Slack, go to slack.storj.io and you can stick in your email and you can join the chat channel to ask questions. We'll also be looking at stuff from Twitter and Reddit and any other channels. Some of the community members help me out. If there's a question that I'm not seeing that's posted on another channel, let me know and I'll be happy to answer it. Awesome. People are saying that they can hear me all right. They're here. Can you guys hear me all right? Is everything good? Audio, video? Just let me know. There's going to be a bit of a delay, but let me know if everything's working properly and you can hear me correctly. All right, so James, you want to come say hi to the nice people who come out to see us?
Hold on, let me pry myself off this couch.
So James, here with us. Let's see, Tome and John are away, but they'll be coming later. Are you doing a dance?
Yeah, I'm trying to balance and also dance at the same time.
Okay. Yeah, you just say the story out there. Cool. Okay. Everything's good. A little loud. Cool, guys.
Does tend to yell.
I need to project. People need to hear me. People need to know that decentralized storage is very important and that it's the future. So can't go softly. So I guess while I'm waiting for people to ask questions, I'll give a little bit of update what's going on. So we've been in Berlin for the past week. When we get in? Monday? Wednesday night. Yeah.
It's only been 2 days.
So we got in this week. We went to Decentralized and Encrypted. Edward Snowden was presenting virtually. I got to ask him a question. I was really excited with a bunch of really cool projects that are all about decentralizing and upgrading the internet. Yesterday we had our open beta launch party. That was really fun. A lot of people came out to that. And that morning we put up the open sign up. So right now you can go to storj.io. You can sign up for an account and you can download and use the API and command line tools to interact with it. So it's an open beta, so there's still bugs out there. So if you find any issues or any bugs, please make a GitHub issue so we can fix that as quickly as possible. So I highly encourage you to create an account and try those things out.
And at this point, for Gordon's sake, I'm going to say, make a GitHub issue, and then if you have the time, please make a GitHub pull request when you fix the issue.
Yes.
Another pull request, and we're giving away stickers and T-shirts and maybe some other fun stuff.
Oh, show them the T-shirts. We have them over here. So someone's asking if Fabe is around. Come say hi, Fabe. So Robin is asking if Fabe is here. He's right here.
Hey, people of the internet.
So that's it. Yeah, so you showed one of the shirts with stickers. We should show them some of the stickers. So if you make pull requests, I forget the exact plan that we have, but it's on the repos. If you make pull requests, you'll get combinations of shirts and cool stickers like these. So check that out. If you're just making like a comma error correction, you're not going to get anything. But if you write a tutorial or add a major guide or fix a bug, then we're happy to send out swag to you guys because we love you guys. So yes, Fabi's here. All right, let's see. So Gordon has joined. Gordon, can you hear us? Can you see us? Yay!
Yeah. Hey, sorry, I'm eating a burrito right now, so I'm just kind of hanging out over here.
Awesome. Is Ryan and Philip there?
Philip's across the street. Ryan's working from home. It's just me.
Awesome. Cool. Well, great to see you. I haven't seen you in a couple days. Everyone in the team misses you. And we'll see you Monday. Cool. So let's see here now. We have a couple of viewers and no questions yet. So let's see, make sure we're not missing any. So I have one question here, or one comment here by Imran. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. He says, "Dear Mr. Sean, your idea is great. I'm following it constantly. Would like to invest in this project too. I'm feeling that it will be the future of cloud storage system, and as well as an opportunity for people as well." So sure, thanks for the comment. If you want to reach out for more info, just ping us on hello@storj.io. We'd love to talk to you. Okay, cool. We have a question. So Jay Doe asked, when would be the commercial release? So right now, we are allowing people to openly test out the software for the first time, play with the command line tools, register for accounts. Everything is free right now for people to use. So push as little or as much data as you'd like. It's all free. Probably in the next month or two, we're gonna start having more commercial operations. And having people actually use the service in production and paying for it. But we still plan to offer pretty generous free tiers for people to play with and use. So kind of the commercial operations and people testing it and using it for free might kind of run concurrent. So again, it's open for anyone to play with and use. But we might have some people paying for it in the near future. So right now, it's just all about scaling things up, making sure that the important features are there, fixing the bugs, those kinds of things before we actually start charging money for anything like that. We have a philosophy that things need to be put out kind of early and often. So we don't get into an area where like, oh, it'd be great if like all the buttons were pink and the users would really love that. But it turns out that people actually don't want that. So we find that out early and not like 3 months out after we like built that into the entire interface. So again, early and often, and just stay in tune with the community and you'll see the updates as they happen as people start to use it. So Tome is in the house. Would you like to say hi to the community, Tome?
Hi, everyone.
Awesome. So Gordon, are you still around over there? Can you hear us all right? Cool. You're still on mute.
Yep, sorry. Yeah, I'm still here.
Would you like to provide any updates to everyone? Tell them what's going on under the hood on the code side?
Yeah, sure. So earlier this week, maybe it was late last week, the days run together. we got to 1.0 for core, which for those of you who are unfamiliar, core is sort of it's the core library that drives all of the storage applications. So we closed like 20 outstanding issues and did a lot of performance optimization and fixed a lot of bugs there. So that stuff this week has been being integrated into the Storj share GUI, the Storj share command line interface. We're updating our bridge service to use the new code, and Storj command line interface for the bridge. All of those have pending updates, and we're going to be doing a release early next week of all that. So we've come a long way. We've done a lot of work, and it's going to be cool.
Awesome. I'm really excited. I've been following some of the stuff on Waffle, and things seem to be clearing out quite nicely. I can actually see the end of the backlog there. So I have to figure out, what the next steps are and, what things we want to focus on. But things seem to be looking really, really, really good, at least for the core stuff. So that's awesome. So I think we have another question here. So is there any real use case right now? The tutorials are pretty basic and not interacting with other software. So yeah, we just released the open beta to people yesterday. So I think there's going to be a little time to fix bugs and educate people up. We're going to be adding a lot more tutorials and documentation to kind of help people understand what the key advantages of storage are over more traditional object storage platforms, and what some of the differences are and some of the things that it does differently. So there's still a little bit of work and documentation needed on our side, and we really welcome the help of the community to do so. To build out those tutorials, documentations, and tools so that people can more directly integrate those into the kind of applications they like. There's a few community projects that have been going on and are starting up. One is Your Portal, a really cool app that gives you a lot more control over your data and photos and media. And then there's another app in progress that's an Android app that allows you to take and sync photos to the Storj network. So those are two really things that are cool things that are getting started up. Again, we released the open beta yesterday, so there's still a lot of documentation to add and a lot of tooling before we start to see like these really cool applications that really use the full functionality of the service. But there's many different use cases that we can hit, whether it's like a Dropbox-like clone or data backup or content distribution or archival. There's many different things that the Storj software could be used to build out, but it's about building that knowledge base and building those tools so people understand the differences and the nuances of how to develop that. So I think there's going to be a lot more cool stuff coming out in the next couple of weeks. Cool, thanks for that question. That was a really good question. Do we have John in the house? He's on a phone call. See if you can grab him for a sec, so you can at least say hi to everybody. All right, waiting for more questions here. So let's run over to Twitter and some of the other social media channels to make sure we're not missing any questions. Storj, Twitter. So some actually really exciting stuff happened at the Decentralized and Encrypted conference that we went to a couple of days ago. Really great conference. Really had a lot of fun with the crew there, and there's some really great speakers. IPFS was there, USV. There's real great organizations and projects there. Towards the end, Edward Snowden actually had a presentation as well, which was really, really, really fun, really great, personal hero of mine. And I actually got to ask a question, which was really cool. I got to ask him, how do we get people to switch from apps like Google Hangouts or Skype, apps that a lot of people use every day, but don't necessarily care about user privacy and security like some other apps do, like Telegram and Signal. Like, how do we get people to move over? There's this inherent stickiness of these current applications that, again, have large usage and like great interfaces, but at the end of the day, they're not secure. And the answer from what I understood is that like we have to make the more secure applications, better in terms of feature sets and interfaces and designs and whatnot to really help people migrate over, which kind of puts these apps at a disadvantage because they have to do more work and features just to get the same amount of users. But the other thing that he said, which I found quite interesting, is that thinking of the privacy and security of the user is a more user-centric and user-focused model. And the applications and interfaces that tend to focus on users first tend to stick around a lot longer than those that don't. We all know of sites like Dig and MySpace that at a certain point they just completely imploded. They weren't kind of thinking of the users first. So he was saying that doing extra work to build out these applications, make them nice, but thinking of the users first, although you have to do more work, focusing on the user first, you're a lot less likely to implode like some of these other projects that don't focus on the user first. So kind of taking to that to heart in our project, try to build the best tools that really focus on privacy and security for the user and the developer and the people who are using it, making sure that the user is the only one that controls the data and the keys and has lots of flexibility, and then all the tools that run on the computer are open source, all the code that access the data is open source, and really sticking by those principles, but also making software that's easier and better to use than something like Amazon S3 or some of these other object storage providers. So really great to be able to talk to him, but that was kind of interesting takeaway from kind of a leading expert in the privacy and security space. Gordon, you want to add anything to that?
Nope, I think you pretty much captured the spirit.
Awesome. So let's see. More questions. So Skunk is asking, in case of a hard drive crash, do I lose all contracts, or can I replace the hard drive in 24 hours or any other time frame and start restoring my shards? Gordon, you want to take that one?
Yeah, so right now we don't have a good recovery mechanism built in. So you would ultimately be responsible for making, as it stands right now, making backups on your own. But given that if you had a backup, you would obviously be able to plug that right back into your farming client and then be back online. In the future, we'll be working on ways of determining if you're down or if you've lost data, and then recovering it from a different location, and then spreading that shard out to either somebody else or back to you if you come back online. So data recovery is something that we're going to have to focus on, in the near future. But as it stands right now, don't let your hard drive crash.
Yeah, not letting your hard drive crash is the best method. But kind of on the service level side, like, what's the priority there? Should the person who's on the other side of that say, take the time to go like redistribute out those shards to those users or should they just be kind of looking for a new host to do that? I guess that's kind of up to the contract and the incentive, because you could do either or, but what do you think is probably the best method on the other side for the user?
Yeah, well, I think you know, the example of a hard drive failure, or you know, without any backup, you know, looking at it from the perspective of like I'm under contract, like I'm paying you to provide a service, I'm paying you to store some data for me. If you lose that data and you're not able to recover it, I mean, that's sort of negligence as far as, you know, honoring your terms of the contract. And so when we, you know, detect that event occurs, and we try to you know, make sure that data is recovered from another location and then redistributed and redundantly again, I'm not really sure that, you know, it would be wise or imperative for us to make sure that the original farmer whose disk failed would be the one to receive those updated contracts. After all, this is, you know, a good farmer will make sure that, you know, they can mitigate those sorts of issues, have backups, have redundancy on their own. It's kind of part of providing a service as technically a business or as a contractor, you know, to be able to serve your customers in that sort of case. So.
Yeah, so thinking that a little bit more, like one of the things that I've kind of recommended, but got to think about this a little more, is that you might have someone who has, let's say, a lot of hard drives that they have plugged into this network, and is, you know, should they have physical redundancy in their setup, and most of the times I've recommended that just no, because the redundancy should be taken care of by the network. But of course, you're going to have times where the hard drives are just going to fail, and so it's kind of that back and forth. It's like, where do you account for that? You know, you might have a hard drive failure as just a normal occurrence, but is it really up to the farmer who's storing that contract to have some redundancy, or, you know, do they just lose the contracts and bite the bullet, or is there some in between where they say like, hey, I had a hard drive failure, I need that data back, I, you know, wasn't trying to do anything malicious, you know, this has happened.
Well, we could always go the turtles all the way down approach, and the farmers could, you know, periodically compress their entire contract and shard list, and then store that recursively, you know, in the network. Yeah, that would be kind of a fun, perhaps destructive operation. But yeah, at the end of the day, you're not storing the full contents of one file. You're storing a shard. And implementing clients are handling redundancy, or will handle redundancy. And so ultimately, if you lose one shard, or if it's not that big of a deal, you know, it'll get recovered from somewhere else. If you lose your entire disk, then you lose all those contracts. It's like, you know, it's like if your storefront caught on fire and you weren't able to recover your items. The best that we can do is provide tools to the farmers that allow them to easily back their stuff up, or I don't know what those look like yet, but anything that we can do to actually, you know, help make sure that they have options in those scenarios will be important in the future.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting scenario. I think, you know, that healthy market that probably could happen in more of a good situation is that you could have these for long-term contracts, and as long as you could pass the audits, people are like, oh, well, I could actually store this here at a lower price, and kind of search the network for the same service level but a cheaper price, and provide that by proxy. So it'd certainly be interesting. All right, next question. Will the selling price be in dollars or SJCX? So for the service itself, for people buying storage space on the networks, that's going to be denominated in dollars. You know, really for the point of simplicity, you have a developer, they want to build an app, they need, you know, 50 gigabytes of storage, they pay, you know, I don't know, $5 for that, whatever the price may be, and they don't have to worry about stuff like fluctuations in currency and stuff like that. So the top level stuff, that's paid in dollars, but as far as the farmers is concerned, the person who's receiving payment for storing that file, that's all up to the contract. So that can be in dollars, in Bitcoins, most likely storage coins. It could also be in sheep. That is possible. That probably might be a little bit hard to transmit and verify, but that could be specified in the contract. So there's many different cases where you might do different ones, and there might be new technology around the horizon in terms of different things you could do with rewards. So that's really open-ended for the farmer. So next question. When will
I'd like to add to that real quick. Just to add to that from a technical side of things, the way that the contracts are defined in the protocol itself, it's agnostic to the payment currency and the payment unit. So that'll allow us more flexibility in the future to support all these different use cases that Sean's talking about. In fact, the storage network, as far as the protocol goes, doesn't actually even require the use of a token, although it's necessary for the market to work on a decentralized scale. However, if you wanted to deploy a storage network within an enterprise or within a private network, you could operate it, just the same without any sort of currency or token needed at all. So it is payment agnostic at the protocol level.
Let's see. Next question. When will the network statistic dashboard Grafana be public? So right now we have a public dashboard, but it's not updated. That's something that we really want to push out to the community. Our concerns are more around the security of that dashboard and making sure it's not leaking any information. So I would have to get back to you on that and then talk to a little bit more to our DevOps guy, Philip, and really look into some of his concerns around that. But that's something that we definitely want to put out there so people can see what's going on in the network and how it's performing and whatnot. But again, there's just some issues with deploying that software and making sure it's secure as it needs to be. So I'll get back to you on that one.
In the meantime, we have a really great community member named Vivan, TH3VAN, and he periodically posts status reports from his farmer cluster in the Storj shared channel. So if you want to get some stats from there, you can certainly do that, and he's been really helpful for us helping find bugs and test the scalability stuff. So he's got that pasted in there a few times as like a text file showing how much data has been stored and sent and received and so on. So.
Oh yeah, that stuff has been awesome. I think we're probably, we did the open beta launch yesterday, and I think we had, last time I looked, like 60 gigabytes stored through the service and the bridge. But I think he's generating maybe like a half a terabyte a day, on the network, and it's just going directly to farmers on the network. So that's all random data, it's all test data, but I think it's really, really cool and really shows the capabilities of the network. So if you're around in the chat channel, just look for his report. It's really interesting to read through. I think it's just auto-generated and posted. So someone actually posted in the chat channel right now. Should farmers use servers that run 24/7, or is a desktop PC that shut down at night okay to use? So really, right now we're kind of trending towards PCs that are available most of the time. But as kind of storage progresses, we really want both, right? There are use cases for both. So one that's on 24/7 might be used for streaming video purposes, whereas the PC that turns off every night might just use for data archival. There's a fun statistic out there of the data that we store in the cloud. 70% of it we never access ever again. So storing that backup archival data on that PC that turns off every night might just be fine, as long as you specify the audits might happen over a couple of days instead of every hour. Now the side effect of that is that the person who probably turns off their computer every night might earn less, a lot less than someone who has it on 24/7. So again, that's all up to the contracting. That's all up to how you want to frame it. But I think there's definitely a use case for both. So another question here. Will you purchase SJCX to pay farmers or use undistributed SJCX? So that's really kind of a open question for us, and we're looking. I think we just brought on. Yeah, we're still talking about bringing on a very talented economics advisor for that. It's all about building, a fair and robust system for that. So if we were to take, money and buy SJCX off the open market, that might be good. That might have some negative consequences. If we use SJCX from the undistributed pool, we have to make sure that's fair. So this is crypto economics, which isn't like really a well-defined subject. Like it's only been in existence for a year or two in full force. So we're still learning and still trying to figure out what the best policy is. So that's just part of being communicative with the community and finding what the best policy is. I think James would add some more color to this because this is his more area of expertise.
Hi, Gordon. Hi, everybody. This is something that I put a lot of thought and time into. Is you want the market for the coin to be stable. If there's too much price fluctuation, it sets up perverse incentives where farmers are incentivized to drop existing contracts in favor of new contracts, or drop existing contracts in favor of leaving the network. When you ask, like, are you going to be buying coins from the market or are you going to be issuing them from treasuries? What we really need to think about is how to create a stable, sustainable ecosystem. And to that end, we're trying to bring in an advisor who has experience with things like monetary policy to figure out the best possible way to do this, to enable the network as a whole to function and to best benefit all of the actors on the network. It's not a question of what's best for us, as a for-profit company. It's a question of how do we promote use of the network, adoption of the network? How do we promote, the profit of everybody involved? And that's a complicated question, and we're seeking the best possible advice we can get on it.
Yep. So if you have any more questions on that, just let me know. But it's about finding the right balance there. And there's advantages and disadvantages to both. So isn't it dangerous to allow one server to run several nodes? The different nodes could host all the copies of the shard. So I think Gordon could add a little bit more color to this, but just based on the statistics of the network, and I think we also have some math on there, the chance of a node that's even a server or whatever that's running multiple nodes getting essentially a complete copy of all the files is infinitesimally small once you get beyond a few hundred or even a few thousand hosts of the network. So we're already at the point where we have around 1,000, 200 hosts. So the chance of you having copies of all that files, even if you're running 100 of them, if they're properly distributed, is very small, and it gets even infinitesimally smaller as the network gets bigger. So if you have more questions, you can ask us that directly, and we can point you to some of the math that shows that. But it's fun statistics. Gordon, you want to add anything else to that?
Yeah, I won't go too far down the rabbit hole, but just to kind of touch on what you had said and kind of bring some of the technical context there. So nodes in the network, as you probably know, are identified by a node ID, which is the hash of the public portion of an ECDSA key pair, which is randomly generated by the client when you join the network or when you create a profile. And so the way that routing works in the network is by finding the distance between, not the geographical distance, but the mathematical distance between these keys, these node IDs. And so that's how the routing table itself forms. This is based on the Kademlia DHT. But the publish subscribe implementation, the way that a renter will announce to his neighbors or to the network that he has, excuse me, that he has a storage contract, to publish. The way that propagates is through these neighborhoods, right? So generally speaking, a renter will first tell his neighbors about a storage contract, and then they'll tell their neighbors, and they'll tell their neighbors, and it propagates that way. The way that lookup is done is by the hash of the shards. So the chance that all of these shards in a given file will be sent to one direction in the network is extremely small, if not almost completely negligible. So just touching on that. By design right now, it's intended to avoid that happening. So you should be, obviously if you have 50% of nodes on the network, then you're going to get 50% of contracts. But as far as having multiple nodes running in a single server cluster, that doesn't pose a significant risk to the security of the data.
Yeah, so to kind of summarize that from my understanding is that like each file is unique, and how that file is sent and passed to the network is based on the file itself. So you might have one chunk of the file and it's structured in a certain way, so the algorithm says go over here. You have the next chunk of the file that says it's structured in a certain way, it says go over there. So one node that's running multiple hosts, that's fine. Like it's not going to get multiple shards of the file because again the other shards of the file will be going to a completely different other area of the network. Is that an accurate summary? Cool. All right, let's see. Next question. How will you close the value loop for SJCX? So I think that was answered a little bit more in the previous questions that we talked about. Kind of SJCX versus purchasing versus undistributed. Do you think that's a fair assessment, or you wanted something to add to that?
No, I think that's a pretty fair assessment. Is the value loop is closed when we as a company or any other person wanting to interact on the network buys SJCX, or any other time you can spend SJCX, or if you acquire SJCX through other means. We're still doing some more thinking about how exactly our strategy for buying SJCX works, but in generally speaking, as long as people are transacting with it on the network, the value loop is closed because someone is putting in value and someone is taking out an equivalent amount of value. Sorry, excuse me.
Okay, looking here at the latest report. So it's asked, is the uploaded data deduplicated? So the upload data is not deduplicated. So that's something that we started with early on in the project. We were looking at deduplicating the data. But the core issue is that this whole network is about privacy and security, and deduplicating the data actually exposes that privacy and security in many cases. I'll kind of give an example. If you have someone who's uploading secret file.txt, and you have some attacker or some bad guy that wants to catch that person or find that person that is uploading that secret file, and they know what the contents of that secret file, well, they can simply look for essentially that collision where that person is now accessing the same file that they already mapped or uploaded or know the contents of. And so that can expose the privacy of the people who are trying to connect to this file for the user that knows what this is already. So it's more that we want any files that you upload to be unique to the uploader, whether adding some extra data in there, or having different encryption schemes, or doing whatever you need to do to make sure that each file is unique. Now you actually save a lot of data when you deduplicate the files, and it's a lot more efficient that way. But again, there are some core issues around the privacy and security when you do deduplication.
And this ties into something that I find myself talking about a lot, is that there's always a trade-off between usability and security. The more secure you want your file to be, the less you can share it, the less you can do things like deduplication. If in the future we could hypothetically enable deduplication features where you opt into this, and we tell you up front that it could leak some information about the content of your file.
Right.
But at that point, it's a question of the deduplicated service might be cheaper, and you might not care too much if information about the content of your file is leaked.
Right.
What we try to do is provide as many tools as possible so that people can self-select exactly what level of privacy and security and encryption they want to use. And in the long run, we'd like to enable all use cases. It's just a question of building the tools out and
what's the priority. So,
right.
I think that's something that we could add in later, and its specific use would be like, hey, I'm uploading a cat picture and I'm happy for this to be shared, and this is not something private. And so that's where you could get some more efficiency out of it. So Gordon, you want to add something to that?
Yeah, it's also just important to note that it's technically difficult to perform deduplication because every shard that you upload to the network is encrypted with a uniquely randomly generated cipher key and initialization vector. So even if you upload the same file twice, the resulting data that you store is entirely different. If you're uploading data that isn't encrypted, that's intended to be public, we do perform deduplication on the farmer level. So if the same farmer receives the same shard that hashes to the same value, he'll only store it once. But that's out of the scope of the type of deduplication that I think we're discussing here.
Yeah. So the capability is there. It's a hard problem. It'll take a significant amount of technical effort to solve, but it's something we would explore in the future.
Cool. Let's see. Next one. Okay, let's see. There's questions in the Hangouts page, so let me make sure I'm not missing those. Okay, quite a few questions, so let's make sure we get some of those. So the first question here, starting at the bottom, is when the people can use Metadisk. So we sent out an email for this a couple of months ago, but some people may have missed it. It also came up in the launch party. So we have rebranded Metadisk. So it didn't make sense to have Metadisk over here for storing files on the network, and DriveShare over here for people renting out their hard drives. Like when you go use Uber, it's not Uber Ride and Uber Drive, or it's not Airbnb host and Airbnb stay. It's just like Airbnb, it's one thing. So we saw that more of a confusion of what storage is and does. And so we combine those. Everything is now storage. So when you want to store data on the network, it's just you do that through storage. And if you want to rent out your hard drive space, that's just storage share. So we kind of collapse the brand just to make it easier for people to understand. I think Philip just walked in. Hello, Philip.
How's it going?
Good. So there was a question from a community member on the public dashboard, and if and when that could be available for users to take a look at it, and said that we had some security concerns with using that, and we had to do a little bit more investigation. You want to add anything to that?
That's correct. I have some awesome dashboards built, but I need to look into the project a little bit more. I've started working with the community that builds that dashboard, and they weren't exactly sure, so I just have a little bit more research to do before I'm ready to publish it. If that one doesn't work, there's plenty of other options. It may take a little bit more time, but we'll find something and we'll get some cool dashboards out.
Cool, thanks. All right, next question. Let's see, I like the storage project, but I don't like the counterparty platform. Have you thought of moving storage coins to Ethereum? What do you think about that? So I think there was a bit of discussion on this on Reddit and some other social channels a few months ago. So we're investigating Ethereum, playing around with it, and really trying to understand it. Counterparty is a protocol that we use for a long time. and kind of understand the inner workings with it. So I think at some point, we'll play around with Ethereum, and I think there's some interesting things that we could do with that on our platform. But for right now, we're using Counterparty for the storage coins and also for the micropayments. So this is all open. There's tech changes every day to each one, but we don't have any plans to switch to anything tomorrow. But again, we're very open. We're looking at all the technologies out there, not just Counterparty and Ethereum, and just using what makes sense. We'd love to have sidechains. We'd love to have Lightning Network as well, but those aren't mature. So we're looking at everything and just taking it in stride and learning as much as we can.
And this also goes back to what we were kind of discussing a little bit earlier about being payment agnostic. So basically we could use both. It's not about necessarily choosing one or the other. It's up to the market and the participants on the network to decide. You could publish a contract for a storage shard that is denominated in Ether, and any farmers who are willing to accept that contract and are willing to be paid in Ether would be able to do that. There's no technical restriction on that right now. We just have to build the payments infrastructure to be able to have tools so people can actually do that.
Yeah, I mean, I'd really like to be able to denominate my my storage contracts in Dogecoin and paying Dogecoin, because I think that's the future. So we just have to work a little bit harder to get there. I think we should work on the future, right, Gordon?
Yeah, I'm going to stop everything I'm doing and implement Dogecoin into Core.
Okay, awesome.
Dogecore.
Did you have something you wanted to add?
No, I'm just coming over here to hang out.
Awesome. All right, so let's see. There's another question. Can I please have a guess at what rates will be per terabyte? $10 to $20 per terabyte per storage. Just a guesstimate, please. I'm setting up a farm and I have 50 terabytes so far. I want to know how much I should expand and how much bandwidth I need. So kind of on the prices of that, I think James can tell you a little bit more about that.
Sure. So a while back, I did a bunch of calculations on what the actual cost of ownership of like a PC and hard drives and computing rigs were. And what I found was that for the average home user, things start to make sense when you share about 750 gigabytes to a terabyte. And based on that, based on the cost of operating a home PC being about $5 a month, and the only scaling cost being electricity, we've tentatively set our launch prices for the object storage service that we offer at 1.5 cents per gigabyte per month. So what that means is that for the farmers who are providing space, the farmers will be splitting about 60% of that. And we're trying to increase the farmer cut over time, but we'll have to see what kind of economics the company can bear and what kind of economics the network can bear. So you might see somewhere in the range of $4 or $5 per terabyte per month, which gives you a replacement rate of about 7 or 8 months for a 4 terabyte hard drive.
Yeah.
It's a little complicated because prices will be, heavily influenced by the market. We're accepting a certain amount of risk by offering a static price. And we can't really say what actual conditions will be in the network before the network is launched and people are making decisions based on the payments they receive. We only know some generalizations and some targets. We're going to try to, adjust things to solve any problems and make sure that farming is a viable operation. But on that note, because we don't know exactly what conditions will be, we don't make any promises about what you're going to earn, and we don't currently recommend that you go out and buy a bunch of hardware until it's a little more stable, until we have a better idea of what exactly is going to be paid out and how exactly the network handles that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a market, so markets are very hard to predict, or if I could predict markets, I would be buying someone a lot of Bitcoin right now. Yeah. But yeah, again, we don't recommend people go out and purchase large amounts of hardware. If there was suddenly a need for a lot of hard drives or an opportunity there, I mean, it's not like Bitcoin miners where it takes 8 months to get there. You can just go to your local Best Buy and grab a bunch. So we really don't recommend spending tons of money on hardware.
Also, I think it's important to remember that like a huge, at least for me, like a huge compelling part of like storage is like reduction of electronic waste. Like, so take the stuff that you have already and hack it together and turn it, and turn it into something useful. So that's just, I just wanted to add that.
Yeah, awesome.
Hi, John.
Hey guys.
So John is here. Awesome.
Pour one out for you, John.
So yeah, sorry, I just saw that. So I'll switch it to the speaking person every time. I think I forgot about that feature. So let's see. Let's take another question here. Also, will the GUI be released next week? So I think we have a release coming up pretty soon. Gordon, you can speak more to that, but we have a GUI release coming out in the next week or two. I believe that's correct, right, Gordon?
Yeah. So I was shooting for. I was being a little more pessimistic about my estimate being another week out, but after the past couple of days, I was able to get through the bigger issues that I was have with the GUI, and they've been resolved. And I just actually finished testing the new Storj Share GUI release with the latest Bridge release and the latest Storj Share CLI release all together, and they all work together well. So mid next week, you can expect a new GUI release. Yes.
Exciting. All right. So we're gonna probably wrap up here in the next 8 to 15 minutes. So let's
8 to 15.
Well, it ends at 1, but we can go over just a little bit, So let's see. Let's go back to Slack and answer. We have 3 more questions here. So when could we reasonably expect Windows GUI Storj Share? We just answered that. Do you have any particular preferences for extensions you'd like to see developed in the community, like mounting a file system? There's a guy back in Test Group A that mounted to a Windows file system. Yeah, so that's something that we'd really love to see, kind of in the software. But there's a wish list of many things that people want.
So like a couple examples would be mounting to the Windows file system, and another one we've talked about is building a bridge to FTP, so that someone could access a server that would function as an FTP server and move files to storage that way. We're interested in helping the community develop new clients in different languages. Like we've implemented it in JavaScript. Sean is writing, specs and a tutorial on how to implement it in, a new language. Ones we're especially interested are Python, Java, Go, C#. Any widely used language is our first priority.
Volcats. That's
yeah, I think Trump script is pretty high up there. Yeah. We need to make Python great again, and Trump script is the only way we're going to be able to do that.
Yep, I agree.
I can't believe I just said that with a straight face.
So let's see. So another question here. What did you learn from Test Group A and Test Group B? What is the biggest improvement since then? So I think Test Group A, it was kind of like the difference between Test Group A and Test Group B. We learned a lot. So we learned that incentivization is extremely important for things functioning correctly. For Test Group A, we had an uptime of about, 18%. And Test Group B was, what percentage was that?
Mean uptime was around 85 and the median was about 90.
Yeah. In Test Group B. There's also a large increase in farmers and data capacity. I think we went from maximum 84 farmers in Test Group A sharing 2 gigabytes of data to 1,200. And they had a total capacity of about 3.4 petabytes of night and day difference.
As far as biggest improvements go, I would have to say everything is since Test Group B, with Gordon and Philip and Ryan working themselves, bloody every day, we've made amazing strides. We've moved from a server client model to a fully distributed network. We've built the entire core library that drives everything. We've built the web app, we've enhanced the GUI, we've built a backend that we think is functional and scalable, and basically every part of the product, every part of the network, every part of everything has seen major improvement thanks to our dev team.
So they get a couple claps.
Yes, they're amazing guys, and we're super happy to be working with them.
Absolutely. Okay, we answered that. Yes, and I think we're out of questions here. So let's make sure that we go back to the community, go to the page, and I don't think I see any more questions here. So cool. Thanks for joining us, guys, for the Hangout, guys and gals, for joining the Hangout and listening to what we had to say, and for your awesome questions. So if you haven't tried it out already, we highly encourage you to go to the Storj site, sign up, and play with the command line tools and GUIs. And if you have any questions or any issues, just let us know so we can fix it. The biggest mistake is people it's broken, and then we don't hear about it, they don't make an issue, they don't let us know so we can fix it. So the only one who can make storage better is you. We should put on a encore and the rest of that. So it's kind of a group effort here. So yeah, thanks for joining us. I'll double check Slack to make sure there's no other questions. It doesn't seem there is. So cool. These are fun. I think we should do more of these. What do you think, James?
Once in a while.
Yeah, we should do these a little bit more often than we do. Philip, Gordon, do you have anything you'd like to add before we close out?
Just wanted to extend our thanks to the community as well. Thank you for reporting bugs. Thank those of you who submit pull requests. Thank you for your feature requests. Thank you for running the software. You guys and gals are you're what make it fun. So thanks a lot.
Awesome. Well, with that, I'm gonna close things down. Ciao, and see you guys in the next community hangout.